All right, so today we will be employing some of the techniques that we have learned in the past 2 weeks. We're going to put them to use. So I'm going to go over some of the techniques so that we can do a little bit of a refresher. I'm not expecting that you remember everything that we've done over the past fortnight. So that's okay. And if you feel that you've forgotten, if there are certain details like consistency, you forgot what it means or whatever, then just ask me again. It's perfectly fine to ask again. I'm here to help you out. Okay. Don't feel intimidated that, oh my God, I should have known this. That was only for strict schools. We're not in school anymore. So I'm happy to help. All right. Okay, so we're going to start off first with an exercise in negative painting. That was the one exercise that we had not completed last week. So I'd like to do that exercise once. And once that is done, we'll just go over all the exercises we did last week and the week before that, and then start making those flowers. So I have shared more flowers than we will land up making. That is so that if you are trying to practice these, you can use these reference images first to practice what we do in class today. And I'll also give you guidelines to do your own image searches so that you can find your own flowers and practice those techniques by yourself for the rest of the week. All right, so negative painting. Negative painting is when you are trying to highlight a particular object by occupying the space around that object. You can do negative painting, you can also do negative drawing, where instead of drawing the object itself, you draw a line around that object. So you create a silhouette of the object. And that, in terms of drawing, that helps you to shift your focus to the authentic shape of the object and not what you are thinking it is. So it helps to suspend your brain interfering with your observation. But in the case of negative painting, this is a very specific and a very plain exercise where we're not really trying to create anything other than the fact that we want a light area highlight or visible, and we are going to paint around that. So last week we have painted one leaf that we had left the way it was, just with one layer for negative painting. So we'll go to that, and I'm going to demonstrate first what you can do, and you don't need to do it with me. After I'm done, you can also do the same. So I'll give you time for that. And again, I would like to reiterate, there is a tendency in many of us to do more in class. So you'll be looking down, and the moment I say something, you're saying, okay, I hear her and I'll start doing it. But with art, it's not like math or English or any of those verbal subjects. It's important that you look at what I'm doing, where my hand is, how I'm holding the brush, maybe also how I'm mixing the paint and a rhythm that I follow. You can learn a lot from just observing that as well. Somewhere your brain is going to register all these things. You don't have to verbally make a note of it, but it does help. So when we do calligraphy, a lot of times we are only looking at the artist working, and we see how their hand moves and the rhythm it creates, and that helps build a certain rhythm when you hold the tool in your hand also. All right, so don't be in a rush. We have time. I'd rather do a few things properly than haphazardly go through too many things and you've not learned anything in the end. All right, so we're at this stage. This is the leaf that we are going to use the negative painting in. So we want to create a vein and some mini veins in this leaf. That is just because I want to recreate the structure of the leaf itself. So this structure was made, I think, without a pencil line. And now I'm going to use a pencil to draw the shape that I want of the veins inside. So I'll start from the center and notice how far I'm holding the pencil. I need this line to be very light. Don't make it very dark because you want to avoid erasing. I'm going to show you a way that you can avoid erasing. From one side of this stalk or the stem, you can draw a line going towards the end. And we are going to make a vein that's about this thick. I don't really need to draw it. I need to visualize it. I'm just visualizing it for you with a dotted line. And then I'm going to leave that gap and draw these smaller veins. You can make any kind of structure here. If you want, you can add more divisions and make it as complicated as you want to paint. But at the very least, you can make at least one of these sections. And depending upon your design, how you want to, how many you want to make, you can decide. Now, once this is done, notice that we have made the design on dried paint. So this line can be erased. Had we made this design before painting, then the line would still be visible, but it won't be erasable. Once you put water or watercolor on top of pencil, it kind of becomes like a sealed graphite. So if you try to erase after you have painted a wash, chances are you will be tearing the paper but not really removing the graphite lines. Alright, now we are going to take a small to medium sized brush depending upon the area we have. So I've had this question a lot from students. How do you decide what brush to take? So I look at the area that I have to cover and I see if I can cover that space in about 3 or 4 strokes, then that is the brush I want to use. So if this were the whole leaf, I would definitely not be able to cover this in 3 or 4 strokes without making it streaky. So in that case, I can use a fatter brush. So I will paint all this in about 3 or 4 strokes and it's done. So you can go with that rule of thumb. Choose the brush according to the area you have to paint. Now I can choose any color I want from this to paint over the already painted surface. But I have to keep in mind that my new paint cannot be of wash consistency. It needs to be slightly thicker. It does not have to be too dark, but it cannot be too watery. Simply because if it is too watery, it is going to just bleed on the paper and become pretty useless for us. Now all I have to do is paint in the sections that I have made. And because the paint is pretty thick, it just goes on very easily. Within 2 or 3 strokes, the painting is done. Okay, this is as far as the watercolor part is concerned. Now the strategy of painting in negative is to paint in such a way that your new layer touches one of the lines that you have drawn from one side, and then instead of drawing another line, you just leave the same amount of space or the required space that you need to from the other side. So you don't have to draw 2 lines here. Imagine if you're drawing 10 lines in this space, if you are drawing double lines for where one line is made and where the other line, like 2 lines for each of these lines that you're going to leave in the negative, it will become a very chaotic painting. But now that I have painted this section, for the next one again, I will just leave some gap, and maybe it's not uniform. I can make it tapering and then from the other side I will touch it to the line. This is the easiest, cleanest way for you to make a negative painted space. I'll just add a little deeper color so then it stands out a little more. So my color is slightly towards the drier side. And again, I'll do the same thing. I will leave some space, taper it towards the end, and paint. Now, if I do get this extra paint, do not try to fiddle with it and take it back and make it even. It will become even, or it'll stay a little darker on the end. Let it be. It still looks good. Okay, do you get it? Do you want to give it a shot? And you can choose any color you want. If you want to use a brown on top of this, or you want each of these segments to be a different color, feel free to do that. One thing that you have to do in this technique is to imagine or visualize the second line very clearly. And I can tell you that in the beginning it can be a little confusing. So if you are confused, don't hesitate to draw a double line. In the section that you're confused in, draw that double line. And then after that is done, if you start becoming more confident, you don't have to draw that double line. Take it step by step and go with your comfort. Just because I have instructed it one way doesn't mean that there might not be another way of painting negative, especially as far as the strategy is concerned. Whether to make two guidelines, two pencil lines, or make a single pencil line. And whatever technique you use, if it works for you, that's the right technique. So in many ways, art techniques should be seen as like mathematics. You can have 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but 1 plus 3 is also 4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is also 4. There are various ways to achieve a particular result, and everyone is free to choose the one they're most comfortable with. So when we are painting this as one color on top of another color, we are also practicing glazing. If you were to do this on a plain background, white paper background, obviously it won't be a glaze. Since we are painting on an already painted backdrop, we are creating a new color altogether. Whatever color you are painting looks different in the palette and will look different on paper simply because it has been given a blue tint. And in each of these also you can practice color blending, that which we did over here. So say for example in this one I have painted one color there, but I feel like adding a second color through color blending to it. So you'll notice I changed my brush from the number 4, thank you Judith, to a number 0 I think, or 2, sorry it was 2 and 4. So you can change the brush, like I said, in places where you have very fine edges or corners, go in with a thin brush. And the moment the area increases, change to a slightly fatter brush. Otherwise, your little brush will get really tired trying to fill up large areas and it will show as streaks. So if the number of things that can happen here, one is you're not getting a crisp line. It is possible that you have too much water and that is why you're not getting a crisp line. Check the tips of your brush. Use a brush which has a nice sharp tip. Make sure that you have only enough liquid in your paint to be able to make a sharp deposit of color. So I'll demonstrate. If I use a paint that is this wet, I might get a very bulbous tip. And if I take this onto paper, there's a chance that I would really have to manipulate to get my sharp edge. And at the end, I might also get this cloud in the end as I lift the brush up. Okay, I didn't. Let me use the fatter brush and show you. And I'm deliberately taking excess water. See, this is my medium is rolling around very comfortably and I'll squeeze out excess, but one is my brush does not have a very sharp tip, and let's see how much medium I've taken. So I've deliberately taken excess medium and I'm going into a spot where I want a sharp edge. I'm not going to get that sharp edge and I won't be able to control my paint too well also. So then I'll start getting wobbly lines. So if this is happening, wipe your brush. Just remove excess paint and take the paint that you have here and just redirect it. You can also do this with a thinner brush. So the worst thing that will happen over here is that you won't get an even color throughout because obviously you've used up a small amount of pigment, but at least you won't get hideous corners. Okay, are you getting this? Okay, is everyone done with at least a few sections of the negative painting? All right. Then let's move on to the flowers now. Yeah, so Judith, I'm using 130 GSM paper, the same paper that I have recommended. This is what my drawing books have, and most drawing books will have anywhere between 130 and 160 GSM. All right, now while your paintings are drying, mine is already dried, so I'm going to move on to a new page for this week's class. And let's see the flowers that I'm going to show you. Now, when you see a picture like that, you will probably see it as a pansy, you will see the petals and the colors, color combination, but you will see this all in one shot. This is a blue flower with some dark areas, some light areas, and a very beautiful golden center. But when we are thinking of it in painting terms, we have to think of it in layers. So we have a wash layer and then we have a detailing layer. So where all can we put the washes down? All bases will have washes. So this will have a wash, this will have a wash. Here also you will have a wash, but you can create a blended wash. So you start off with depositing extra paint here and then drag with water towards the outside. We have done this in the dragging technique. Same thing over here and same thing over here. After that is done, then we can apply some regular color in the center over here. But we can also do a blending technique in this section. So we can start off with a yellow, blend it with maybe a burnt umber, and then make the shape of the blue. So you will ignore these detail lines. You'll ignore this line, you'll ignore these lines. Just translate this as a wash and blend technique flower. Okay, so that's one thing. Now I am going to discard this, and I'm going to just show you a quick technique for illustrating, for drawing this. We start off with a circle because most flowers fit in a circle format. And in this circle, I will then draw a line running through the center in such a way that I cut the flower into its two symmetric halves. And as it turns out, this center of the flower also seems to be very close to the center of the circle I have made. So the circle has gone from the side petals and the bottom petal, and then an extra space on top. And then I will draw the extra lines for the outside petals. So here again we can draw these petals by first making two short lines at directing towards 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock, assuming that this is 12 o'clock. Okay, and then we will draw that free line around, and always draw the same thing on the left as on the right so that you can get the right shape. Then the bottom petals, you will first make these straight lines towards 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock, assuming this is the 12 to 6 line, and then create the bottom petal. Alright, once you create that, you also get an idea of where the top two petals are going to end. And then from maybe where somewhere between where 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock would be, from 12 to 3, and somewhere between, oh no, actually exactly at 10 o'clock, we will draw this petal like so, and then complete the other one just as a curve from the right side of the petal in the foreground to the middle of the petal on the right. I will share this image with you so that you can refer to these guidelines when you're drawing them. And of course, I'll be drawing that over here again, so you don't have to worry about remembering anything. Okay, just sharing the image. Alright. So let's start off with a circle. Don't make it too big, okay? Just make the circle about the size of maybe so much, till about halfway up your finger, 1.5 flange. And keep your lines light. We are going to make this, some of the lines darker, and after all the lines are made, we might also erase. Let's see. Now, if you want to convert this flower to a vertical flower, you can do that, or at an arbitrary angle, make the center line vertically and then tilt the book to that line so that you can see this as a vertical line. Make the horizontal line. We are just making an approximate circle, an approximate center of the circle. Don't worry about exactness over here. Now, right at this point, we are going to make a triangular shape like this. And up from the triangle, over here, this triangle is fairly wide. And above that, we are going to make a fairly narrow inverted triangle. I think this can be even smaller. I'm going to make it even smaller. Alright, so if we take a look at our reference image, this is where our petal goes from. About halfway in this triangle and halfway in this. So I made these lines a little longer. I'm going to turn the petal shape before. That's why the guidelines come in handy, so you can keep checking and double checking. Then draw that line slightly straightish towards 8 o'clock and towards 4 o'clock, and then draw two bumps for the bottom petal. Your lines on either side will not be symmetrical, so don't stress about that. This is a flower. There are very few flowers which are 100% technically and perfectly symmetrical, and that's the beauty of the flowers. Now, some parts of these petals on the side are going outside the circle so that we get a nice shape over here. And then you can see in the reference image at what point the petals in the back start. And round them, but don't make them so large that they start looking like a dress or worn on the head. So keep the height of this petal no bigger than the width of this petal, and you should be fine. I'm going to keep my pencil lines. I'm not going to erase them so that you can see the guidelines also. Now, while we're here, in pencil itself, you will make these few parallel vertical lines in all the sections where we have a different color. So we don't draw a line across those sections, just make lines to indicate the fence. This way you don't have to erase these lines, they just blend in with the texture we make. Now I have made these lines to demarcate the dark blue shade. Outside of this is going to be white, and then beyond that is light blue. These two petals are just light blue with a little extra shadow on the inside. So I'll show you how to do that as well. And the same thing for the bottom petal, there is a white border on the sides. Now don't be in a hurry to paint this. We're going to do it slowly. First things first, which part should we do first? We need to decide that. And for that, we need to know which parts have got washes and which parts have got detail painting. So the washes are all here on the outside. And we want to do those first because we don't want concentrated paint to be applied and then the wash, in case that wash comes into our space. The danger over here is very little. But observe how I'm doing this right now. I will first address the bottom petal. So I want a white space, and the line demarcating the white space and the blue space is pretty sharp. So I'm going to take my cerulean blue and keep it fairly deep in color, not very watery. Okay, just observe this. I'm going to take a little bit of that, even more concentrated would do. And I'm also going to keep my thin brush handy. This is one application, this is second application. So I am leaving a little gap from that fenced line. And I am marking, placing my cerulean blue in the shape that I see that white shape in. And I'm loading this because I need this to remain wet for a little extra time. This is fairly loaded. Now with the thin brush, I'm going to drag this outward. I think I can increase the size of this petal. You will be able to see my pencil lines through. Okay, now check how much liquid you have. You can also check it over here, and you can drag the paint downward just from the outer edge. Now I can see too much paint coming over here, so I'll wash my brush again. I don't want too much paint, and I'll press my brush down so that I don't take too much paint. If I get too much paint in my brush, I'll wash, wipe, and come back into this again. Very gently, just the outer edge. Use a thin brush for control so that you don't inadvertently bring in too much liquid, and leave it. Let it do whatever it's doing. I have managed to blend this too much, not too much. Then there is a little bit of a cloud that's going to happen. Just let it happen. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? Whatever you do, do it slowly. After you've done this, you can do the remaining two petals on the sides as well. Remember that the line that we have drawn, this fence, is the line on the other side of the white section in each petal. Don't be in a rush to paint this part in both petals at the same time. So usually when I tell you to not do something, it's because I have done it all. And I have failed, and I don't want you to go through that same problem. So just forewarning. Again, over here, if you feel you're the types who might get confused about where you have to paint, you can make another line so that it's just like you can remind yourself, look, I don't have to paint from the fence, but a little away from there. So at this stage, everything is looking messy. Don't worry about it. Even mine is looking messy. Don't try to correct anything at this stage. This is the first layer stage. You really don't need to need to make it absolutely perfect at this stage. Everything will balance out after the other elements come. I've got a very big cloud over here, but it won't matter. Now, once this dries, you can create a wash in the remaining part. Now, this time I am going to use very watery paint, but I am going to drag it through also. So, I am going to put a little extra color in the center. There is a little bit of a shadow here. And while it is a wash, I can still use the dragging technique to make the other section slightly lighter, but leave the slightly deeper section towards the center of the flower. See? So our hand has to move quite a versatile manner. Sometimes you use a thick paint for the dragging. Sometimes you use even a watery wash consistency for dragging. But in all of these, wait till each section dries before you paint the section right next to it. Whenever you're dragging, only touch the edge. So those of you who feel your hand is heavy and you're not able to very blithely move your fingers, the answer to that is daily sketching. You don't have to paint every day, but you can sketch every day. The reason why your hand might not be moving is because your palm muscles and your finger muscles are still slightly weak. The strength that we need in our palm and our fingers to write is very different from what we need to paint and to draw. And in order to become good at both of those, you just have to scribble every day. Literally, you don't even need to make some specific artwork, just scribble. Those of you who are familiar with pencil yoga, just do that and you should be fine. Right, now for the middle part, this is a tricky bit because we have a very light color, that's gamboge, and then we have a very deep color, that will be cobalt blue. So before you paint anything, just get your colors out, get the paint hydrated, ready in the right consistency. The worst thing you could do for yourself is to paint the first color for a blend and then go into the second color that is completely dry, so that your blend is not just going to happen at all. Okay, since my gamboge is in such a disastrous state, I might as well refill it. So this is what I was saying earlier in some batch, I don't know if yours. I just put in some paint from the watercolor tubes to refill. And I'm good to go for another 6 months.
Which all color are you using, Aditi?
Yeah, so I start off with gamboge.
Okay. And the other
That's
one
going
was?
to be in the center. And then there are other two. Then there's a little bit of burnt umber. Very, very little bit, which you can skip by the way. I want to put it there because the transition from yellow to cobalt blue might be a little too stark. But you can skip it. You don't have to do it. I'm being a little cautious. So I want to make the color very pigmented, not very watery. And the space is really tiny. So, do you want to just observe this for now? Clean the brush thoroughly so that I'm not taking too much blue from here to here. I just use the same brush and take enough gamboge, nice thick gamboge, and apply it in this triangle right in the center, and a little more than is necessary, I would say. Then go to my burnt umber and you can see that it has dried, but I'm taking very, very little water, very little, and quickly blending the end of gamboge. So this creates a bridge for the blue to enter without going into the yellow too much. And now I will add the cobalt blue, but I have to remember that it does not go all the way to the other blue. I have to not forget that this blue stops a distance away from the other blue in almost like this heart shape. That's it. Okay, so I'm writing the colors here. We have gamboge. Oh, maybe I'll write it in pen. plus burnt umber and cobalt blue. This one is just so delightful, you have to not hold your breath. I sometimes get so excited by seeing how the colors are merging that I forget to breathe. Now, once this is done, the others are very simple. Always look at the reference image. Don't paint anything without looking at the reference image. And then see that there's a little white section on top also, so that the the deep blue section actually starts from here, and it's as if somebody has just drawn this with lines itself. The best thing about these flowers is that they look like they have also been painted, and you get so many color combinations in pansies. It is wonderful. Oh, I should have left a little white section over here. I did not see it. It had these Mickey Mouse like ears. Damn it, I have to paint again. Okay, after you have painted this, then you can make the details in again even drier paint. And you can use a mix of cerulean and cobalt to make a slightly deeper line. And this is again optional, you don't have to do it, but you can make this with literally one hair of the brush, or just use color pencils for this. The texture is very subtle, and if you can paint it, then it's just wonderful. If you cannot paint it, just draw it. The effect is exactly the same. But remember to not make this texture so overpowering that the base loses its meaning.
Do we make these fine lines in all the petals?
The ones that have them. So all the petals have some kind of fine lines. Whichever ones you can see. So there's the same petals on this side, same over here. And then there are really deep, dark colored lines in the center. Those we can make with black. So those lines, there aren't too many of them. You can make them like this. They're radiating from the center outward. And in this case, we have a very deep center color, but there are certain other color combinations where the center is not so deep, so then the black becomes more visible. And sometimes they're also going on along this edge, beyond the edge of the two blues. Now, if we want to add more dimension to this, you can use a gray shade like this. Any deep shade. You can also use a brown, you can use a burnt umber, even something like this. Whatever, you have all these colors that are in the shadows, they are shadowy colors also. So mix 2-3 colors together, you will get some kind of gray shade. Take very little bit of that and run this just on the outside edge of the petal so that it creates a shadow through the white section also. And though we have a little deep color here, you can also run it on this side just by pressing it. See that it is not too dark, it has to be just a grayish shade. And you will get that depth. And then if you do it outside of the flower, then you will also make this look like the flower is sitting on your paper. The same color, it's the same shade. And that will look different on the flower and look different where there's no color. Just silhouette around the flower by pressing a little bit so that you don't have just one flat color throughout. Of course, this is avoidable right now if you're not confident, but try it. So the other two flowers that I've shared, there's a purple pansy, same technique. Can you see? We make the same, and in fact, the purple along the bottom 3 petals is not even shaded from dark to light, but you can shade it. Then the same white patch and same deeper patch in the center, and don't forget this little light section over here, which I've forgotten. I'm feeling very bad. And then you have a slightly redder petal. So try to notice the difference in the color between the petals at the bottom and the petals on top, and try to create that color. Then the one next to it, this one, ignore the center, but can you see now over here, you can just paint this with the dragging technique. This is just a wash that you throw in from the center out or from outside to the center, either ways it works, and then you put in a little extra shade over here. It's fairly simple to draw. We are going to make this very quickly, and we will do this simultaneously. You and I will do it together because I think you get an idea of what we have to do. Let's take 5 minutes to paint this. Let's start with the circle again. I'll guide you through this, and this part I think you can just listen to me also, you will get it. This is the outer circle of the flower. Make a dot in the center of the circle. And now let's draw lines towards where the petals are going. So you have one line going towards 11 o'clock. This is my 12 to 6 line, 9 to 3 line. Then another one is going somewhere between 1 and 2. This is a very wide petal. Then one just below 3, one just after 5, and then one straight to 9. So these are the sections between the petals. Don't go all the way outside because we have to turn them. Let's draw the petal on top first because it overlaps everything else. Follow the line. It's not the same line throughout. It's a little flat on the top left, then pointy towards the top, and then rounded towards the right. On the left, again, there's a short bump, and then there's a tall bump, and then a frill-like shape, and then it comes towards the center. It almost seems as if the left side of each of these petals is shorter, or one side is shorter and one side is taller. How strange is that? Historically, a lot of illustrators have been responsible for, well, at least one, let's say, has been responsible for certain scientific observations which people at that time had not paid attention to just because they were not artists. Now, the center part, we just draw these stamen and ignore them for the moment. Just pencil lines will be enough. There's a very beautiful structure in the center. Draw whatever you can see, whatever you can't see, ignore it. Because it's in the lighter section of the flower, we don't really need to pay attention to it. Now I'm going to paint this from inside to outside, which means that a little distance away from the center, I'm going to just first add water. Not from the center, but from 2/3 the way out. And it's not too much, it's just a little sheen on paper. Then I already have a blue. I'm just using this one because I don't want to make anything new. Not too much. So this is very watery now, so I have to reduce that. And I'm going to introduce that to the watered section first. And then pick up more of that, this time a little more concentrated, and pull it outward. Maybe a little more concentrated, so that by the time I lift the brush on the outside of the petal, more pigment can settle there and it can very easily give me that shade. Okay, so very little pigment in the first parts. First was water, no pigment. Then very little pigment, but not too much water also. If I had put too much water, all of that would rush into this wet, watery wash. And then as I go outward, I increase the amount of pigment. I'm going to make one more in case there are anyone who is not sure yet. This is where a tub of clean water would have helped. Just along the border of the water. And then along that border, a deeper color. The consistency remains the same. Don't change the consistency. And if you are sitting under a fan, remember to add a little water. See, my color has dried a little bit here. Now, here my color dried, so I'm not getting a nice blend, but I'm not gonna mess with that. Okay, is everyone getting this? What are your results like? Oh, wait a minute, Daksha, you're showing it?
Yeah,
One minute,
with
let me just see it. Okay, very nice. How do you like it? That's looking good. Very cool.
But I did a small mistake with this. My flower size is a little giant. I will finish it nicely.
Let's see. Okay. Oh, turn it to its side. Turn it on its side
But
because look. Okay. Yeah. So the petal, rounded petal, yeah. The shapes of the petals can be changed, but other than that, it's looking nice.
bigger, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Aditi, I shared with you.
Are we doing the other petals also?
Sorry about that. I had to just get the door. Was there a question that I missed?
I shared with you the flower, Aditi.
Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. This is Tripti, huh? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay. So, what are your comments, Tripti?
Me too.
Okay, see, I see that over here you've got a very nice blend, the bottom left petal. And the other four, in places they're fine, but I'm guessing that did you paint this one first, the bottom left?
Yes.
So your brush was clean at that time. That's why you got this nice water dropped here, and then you had just enough paint to drag into or drop into the water and drag out. And then you have where you have to put water, you have slightly blue tint because the brush is not clearly washed. That's why you have this blue tint in all these places. But you know the technique, you're getting it. Your brush needs to be clean, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, now in this case also, when you're making the shadows, you ideally we have to make the shadows on any one or maximum two sides. So we can make the shadow, if you're making the shadow on the, this would technically be the top and right, then we don't make the shadow on the left because that means that the light source is from here. So the shadow is making it look a little odd. Then I don't know why there is a little texture over here around the edge. What paints are you using, Tripti?
I have this kit of camel with only 12 colors.
Is it
So,
is it the same kind of colors, the cakes that we have?
oh no, it's the tubes. I'm proposing to now start with the cakes. I've ordered it. Maybe by next class I'll use it.
So I'll tell you what is happening. Are these tubes new?
Yes, they're unused. I just opened them.
All right. So when you squeezed that out, was there a little bit of oil that came out?
Yeah.
So what I see over here is the oil,
Mm.
and that's okay. I mean, the oil is there to just protect the paint from drying. They usually put a little bit of oil on all these paints, and as far as our cakes are concerned, they will put a layer of something else so that the cakes don't get fungus. So it takes a little while to even activate the cakes. So it's protective. But when you squirt that paint onto your palette, just make sure that you don't mix the oil into the pigment. So I might have some unused color here. So since I have these tubes right next to me, I'll show you that if the first part is oil, yeah, see there's some oil coming out. This is not pigment. So you take it out in another section and let that oil just come out. See? This is what creates that shine. So you take this out and then you will come to the pigment. Wow, look at this, so much oil. And now my pigment will start. So this is now the pigment. And what is this now? Burnt sienna. So I'll just add it over here.
Thanks. I was never ever aware about this. It's new information. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Good. I hope that this
New
helps. Look.
new thing to learn. Never heard of.
Okay, great. I'm glad. All right, now the next one. The next flower we are going to make is that daisy. So this daisy is in reverse. The flower is white and the background is black. So here we are going to make.
Have you done with the other one? Sorry.
No, not completely. I just
Okay.
demonstrated and I left everybody to their devices. We can come back to that to just see what everyone's experience is. So I wanted to do this daisy. And in this, we will draw the flower and the stalk and everything. We will do a little bit of painting on this, but focusing more on the background. We are not going to attempt to recreate the background the way it is, but this is going to be a wash. So we are going to create a color, a denser color, and wash it around the shape of the flower, and hopefully also the stalk. It's a tiny thing, but it should stay visible. Okay, so in the case of the daisy, we have, oh, let me show you the structure. It might be a little easier to visualize if I draw on it. So first let's visualize its outer shape. This is almost like an oval. And then we have another oval. But it is not in the center because we are not seeing this flower right from the top. We are seeing it from the side a little bit. So it helps to have some idea of how much lower from the center it would be. Let's say if I draw a line across the center of the flower vertically, how many of these lines will I make above? Oops. So it's about a little longer than the height of the central part of the flower. And if I take this lower, it is the same amount shorter on the lower half. Once we get this placement or proportion, everything else starts working. Next, the horizontal. Same thing. It could be the same on both sides, but the widest part of our oval is not this one. The widest part of the oval is higher Okay, so a little more than half, sorry, a little less, no, a little more than half on this side, but the half point of the oval is on top. Same thing over here, a little more than half on this side, so it's pretty symmetrical. And that's how we're going to do it. Okay, so once we have drawn this oval, then draw the major petals first. This is a major petal. Then this is a major petal. Then we have one which is rounded on top and pointing towards 7 o'clock. Then you have one that starts off going to 9 and then goes higher. So I'm creating a distribution of the petals, and then there's this petal behind the main petal over here. Once you have this radial pattern, everything else becomes a lot easier to draw. Each of these has just got about 2 or 3 petals in between them, and their angles will be easily visible to you. Okay, so I'm removing the extra lines that I've made. I'm going to just keep these 5 lines. I think I'll make them a little darker. They're barely visible to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I'm going to share this structure. Oh my god, it's gone. I forgot to take a screenshot. Alright, let me make it again. For those of you who don't need this, please start drawing. You don't have to wait for me. Don't make it too large. Okay, so here's our oval. One needs to be a little careful when you're making ovals because each oval is different. You have 2 considerations, the shorter side and the longer side. So look at the flower and avoid making an oval that's too round or too flat. You'll get it. And then you make a line that runs vertically. Mark the half point, and at that point, just a little above that, start making the central oval. So remember how we had measured the center of this, or sorry, the height of the central oval. Go, when you take it up, should have a certain amount extra space over there, and when you bring it down, should have the same amount less at the bottom. It's such an arbitrary measurement. I hope you're getting this. The measurements are like very, like right there. How do I see it? Just make the measurement and start drawing. Don't get too hung up on it. Then we will draw the main petals. Now I see these as the main petals, but there could be others that you find are main. Doesn't matter. Just follow the line of the petals. Then there's one weird half petal like that, behind which that 5th main petal is drawn. So this is because the petal is turning inward. So you see it like in a weird shape. Just draw the shape that you see. And if you don't see it, just ignore it. Some places the petals will also have a flat top. And in the process of drawing this, if you get lost and you draw an extra petal or you eat up one petal, it's okay, don't erase. If it's looking elegant, it's fine. A little off center, I'm making this little dimple. And then the stalk in the in this V space at the bottom. I'm just making a short stalk like this. Now, after the flower is made with this little leaf-like structure, I am making a box around this because we need to make a wash. And I want to contain the wash in a small section. Since our daisy is a light color, I don't want these vertical horizontal lines. So I'm going to erase some of these. But I'm not going to bother erasing the oval because we are painting a dark color over it. The flower is fairly straightforward.
If you
Yeah.
can just give me that, am I doing it rightly? Can you
Okay.
see it?
1 second. Let me see this. Who is this? Have you shared it on the group? Can you share it on the group? Because then I can see in detail. Okay. Okay, this is Daksha. Right. Let me just share the image, Daksha, and I'll explain to you. I think you're going in the right direction. If you can see, the bottom part or the bottom circle needs to be slightly shorter. So the measurement that I gave was with respect to this center, this vertical center of the small oval, right? And what I want is the bottom where the big oval comes at the bottom of the flower, that space is about just so much, just this short space. So your line at the bottom, oh sorry, your line at the bottom should come to only about so much, a little less than that also, about so much. So you can make your bottom oval end here like that. And on top it should be, I think you've got that right because it's just that much more. If this is the height of the center, we wanted just that much more for the outside. So this is more or less the proportion of the inner oval vis-a-vis the outer oval. Got it?
Yes, yes, I will make the change.
All right, I'll share this also with you. Okay, so painting this flower is fairly simple. Just take your lovely golden gamboge color and paint it in a nice disciplined manner in the center. There are no merges, no blending, no nothing between the center and the petal. And if you want to, you can blend a little bit of, I guess, orange or burnt, not burnt, what's it called? Um, Yellow ochre towards the bottom. So I will put this down, and now I think you'll be very comfortable with blending. So just pick up a little bit of yellow ochre and insert it so you get that dimension as well. And while this is drying, we can take a little sap green and lemon yellow or even gamboge to make it slightly light yellow. Now you can go to your watercolor charts, the color chart that you made to match the shade. And there are multiple ways to make this color. You can use cobalt blue and lemon yellow, cobalt blue and yellow ochre, cobalt blue and gamboge, cerulean blue and yellow ochre, and you will still get some form of a light green shade.
Aditi, what colors have you used for the stem?
I have used, I had this green shade. So this was sap green. I used it for, remember when we did that negative painting? I mixed sap green and there was some viridian. So a random green has been created. To that, I added a yellow and that made it just slightly light. Now that same green, as my first layer has dried, I'm going to make it a little darker and run it along the right side of the stem to make my stem more three-dimensional towards the right. Since these are the lighter shades, finish off this painting before we make the dark shade. So just a little warning, we are at 7:57 right now. So I'm going to take at least another 10 minutes because we'll mix the color, we'll start painting, then we will do a little bit of chatting. So those of you who need to leave can just quietly exit. I will share the recording afterwards so you can listen in on the conversation afterwards. Okay, now can I just demonstrate how to make the wash in the backdrop? So while your paint is drying, I'll show you how to paint this. Now I have the option of using a big fat brush, slightly less fat brush, a medium brush, and obviously a thin brush is not something that I would use for the major area. But all these can come in handy because the area keeps changing. We have a large area here, but it's not so large that I need the largest brush, so I'm going to put that away. I could use a medium, like a number 7 brush, because it does load up a lot of water and I can go over this section in about 2 or 3 strokes. So 7 will do. This fat brush might be too much, so out. Then as I come to the corners, I am going to use the fine brush and make the paint come around these corners. So while this is still wet, I'm going to quietly bring the colors in and then load up again with a large or a medium brush this time, a number 4 over here, because this area is very tiny. I might overdo it with the 7 number. Use a thin brush to go in and then use the 7 number again to bring all of this down. Okay, so this is how I will do it. And if you want to just observe this for the moment, don't paint with me. See how I am painting this part and afterwards you can try it. The colors I'm using will just be darker versions of this. So it'll take me a couple of minutes to make a dark color over here. So go ahead and continue painting the rest of it while I mix my shades. I need it to be really dark. So I'll be creating all the colors that I will need for the washes. So here I have ultramarine blue with a little bit of cobalt blue and some green, and all these shades are next to each other. Notice that I'm not making one big fat puddle out of all of them because I'll miss out on this whole variety. And somewhere I'm also going to put a little black. So I'm going to start this wash with a deep black and then move into the blues. And as my colors get used up, I will keep going into these cakes, adding more pigment so that I don't run out of the pigment altogether. Okay, I'm beginning now. So if you want to just keep your brushes aside and just observe. Once I put my paint down, I'll know whether I've got the right consistency. Okay, this seems to be fine because it is coming towards the bottom of the section. I'm not putting any pressure, and without washing the brush, I am taking my blue because I want these to blend naturally. I'm painting this with a 7 number brush. And I'm bringing this as close to the petals as I can. And only the delicate sections I will use the thin brush. See this? And don't go in dry. Load this brush as well, because you don't want that even the tiny brush to steal paint from where the wash needs to be. There's enough liquid everywhere, so I don't have to rush through this process. In a way, I'm just dragging the existing color into the spots that I need that color to sit in, and this will be fine. Going back to a number 4. Again, don't go in dry. Not just wet paint, also add pigment. So take some pigment and then insert that pigment so that you don't get any light patches unnecessarily. Load your brush before it goes completely dry and go as close to these petals as you can with that medium brush. This is a number 4. Painting both sides simultaneously. If your medium is liquid enough, you don't have to be scared about it becoming patchy. I'm running out of medium here, so I'll add more pigment. And now I've come into a larger area, so change the brush to a number 7 again. This left side is fairly wet, so I'm going to the right. Drop in a good amount of pigment so that it doesn't dry. Ideally, paint the left first so that your hand doesn't go over the painted section, and then come down like you would a normal wash. This section is still nice and wet. Add more pigment. You can use a thin brush over here. Keep loading the pigment. And then bring it down. Nice and comfortable. And you're done. All right. You want to give it a shot?
My wash is not going good.
Oh, let's see what is happening.
I'll send you a pic.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so let me just give you some suggestion. Tripti, um, your so the pigment has dried. So two, three things happening simultaneously. The paint is obviously drying before you can do too much to it. And in some cases over here, a lot of water remains. So I'll go bit by bit. Um, on the top, I think maybe you used the wrong size brush. You could have used a medium sized, where you probably used a brush that was either too large or too small. Then you seem to have changed the brush on the left when you made the stroke, but by then the original color had dried a little bit. That's why you get this double tone. Then as we come down over here, you've probably mixed new pigment, but when you were making this part of the wash, you kept your book straight down and did not keep it at an angle. So some of the pigment has just stayed there and rolled around, doing whatever it wanted to do while you continue towards the bottom. So you got a good handle over here. And then I think you maybe did not load the brush quickly enough. So we have a patch over here. So very little paint. Maybe you ran out of paint, and then in the process of trying to mix new paint, some part might have dried. The same thing seems to have happened at the on the left, that you painted close to the flower, but there wasn't enough liquid, so the edges dried, and then you probably came in with more water, and then that water created a cloud. But then you recovered over here, so you managed to get enough medium and create a more even wash towards the bottom left.
So is there any way we can rectify these patches or no? This is done.
Yes. No, no, no. Yes, you can. So way to rectify it is to paint over it after it has fully dried.
Thank you. I'll try it again then.
Yeah. But I'll also advise you that whenever you have a patch like that, don't go all the way to the bottom of the page. Leave a little gap. So be in control of where the paint ends. Simply because aesthetically, this drags your painting down and out of the field of vision. And second is that it keeps us literally on edge. You don't know where things are ending. So we tend to miscalculate the amount of paint we are going to use. Sometimes it's miscalculating that, miscalculating just the shading that is needed over there. So mentally, we need to have some border. So now, next time, in the event that you've drawn a stalk which has come very close to the edge, the box around it can be made a little shorter. So it will look as if the flower is in the box, but the stalk is outside of it. You know what I mean? That's also fine. Okay, I'm going to show you how this has turned out. Now there is a little bit of a cloud on top, can you see? But it is looking really nice. And if I want to finish this now, all I need to do is add some grays. So I'll finish this now so that you can see the end result, but you don't have to do it, because obviously we are not doing flower illustration in this batch. We will be doing flower illustration, I think, in December. So if you want to learn florals, then December is the time we're going to do that. And what else? Next month we are doing food illustration. So next week I'm going to do a little bit of food also, and if I can make a landscape, I would really like to show you how to paint a landscape with all these techniques as well. And seeing as how next week is going to be the last week for watercolor basics, I'm really hoping that most of you, all of you actually, continue with the rest of the classes, because we do mostly watercolor painting. So if you want to strengthen your basics, there's no other way to strengthen it than to do more watercolor. So next month is going to be all about food, and we will start off with just basic illustration with pencil and paint and the same things that we are doing in this, but obviously a little more with food being the focus. So you will be able to develop this much more through all the other modules as we go along. There are so many facets, and every time your application changes, there is something new that you have to change. And the basics is just going to tell you, okay, these are the variables, but it down to practice will take practice. All right, so any questions? I'm just going to stop this recording and then I will answer all your doubts.